Welcome to chess, ladies and gentlemen. All right, man. So I went ahead and went back about a month ago to May 13th, and I have a chess.com match between Daniil Dubov and Wesley So. All of my people that are coming from the Philippines, I will say maraming salamat for stopping by. Anybody who is coming from Russia, I will say spasibo. But if you guys are ready to go, let's take a look, see what we got for this game, homie. So we got the move e4, all very standard stuff up to this point. I mean, we're only into like one move, so I mean, we got the move e5, we got bishop to c4, and it's crazy because this goes through like 4 or 5 different openings to get to where we get to. We start off with the bishop's opening, and then we have a Berlin type of defense. We got knight to c3, which is called the Falk-Beer-Stanley variation of the Vienna game. We have a Anderson defense of the Vienna game. We got a knight to f3. We got knight to c6, the 4 knights Giuoco piano, and then we have d3, and then we have a6, and we do have a Giuoco Pianissimo. So, you know, it's important to know your transpositions in chess, so maybe you can steer the game where you want it to go. We do see the move a4. You know, you kind of see all these pawn moves right here. You're like, wow, why are we making so many pawn moves? The first thing is, you know, you kind of want this bishop to stay put where it's at. It's very, very strong on this diagonal. And then with this one, you do at some point want to drop it back either to b6 or preferably a7. You know, c3 and d4 is a very big idea in this opening after something like a knight to d5, which is what we do see in the game. We do see the move d6. And this either strengthens e5, but in this particular situation, it does signify the intent to go bishop to g4. As you can see, if bishop goes to g4 and then black is allowed to play knight to d4, you do have a lot of pressure on this knight, and there really isn't a good way to break that pin because you cannot retreat the bishop back type stuff. So we do need to prevent that with the move h3. We got castles up by black. We see bishop to g5. So you see that white is basically kind of putting that same idea into use. After we see the move h6, we got bishop to h4. The knight still comes down to d4 anyway, which, I mean, it's a very useful move anyway. And then we do see knight going to d5. So you see that white managed to kind of put the same idea against black. And this isn't like really, there really isn't a good way if you're black to break this pin. You really kind of have to go g5. You don't really want to open up your king, so, you know, but it's just kind of one of those things you have to do in this position. We do see the move g5, and Daniil Dubov, he kind of goes into kamikaze mode. He starts to play like Mikhail Tal in this one, and he goes queen to d2. Now, you guys might be wondering, can I just go bishop to g3? You absolutely 100% can do that. That is actually the most suggested move in the position. There are some other moves. I mean, you can go knight takes f6 with check. I mean, a check always has to be defended against. So that is definitely something you can do as well. But Dubov says, bro, you know what? I don't even care. I'm about to play and have some fun. Sometimes you just want to do that. It does come down to the opponent making sure that they defend correctly. A few of the things you can say about the position is once pawn takes here, you do have a half open G file. You are going to get some material back with this. You got some threats going on. So, I mean, it definitely takes a player like Wesley So to defend against this situation. Pawns does take h4, and then we do see queen taking on h6. And this actually, even though it is much better for black, this is a very sharp position and you do have to know what you're doing. So, there is only one move that you could play in this position. If you want to pause the video and try to guess which one move that is, go ahead and do so. Okay, so like I said, as black, it seems like you have like a bunch of options, right? I mean, you know, you can like kind of move this knight somewhere because, I mean, I think most of you guys can see that the threat in this position is knight takes f6 with check. The king is stalemated in that position, so the queen is going to have to take. So you kind of just want to move the knight away somewhere or, you know, maybe place a check like so. There are actually drawbacks to pretty much everything you can do that isn't the move that we saw in the game, and that is knight back to h7. This is the absolute only move. You know, like I said, if you do take here, you know, you are looking at pawn takes here, and then the rook is coming to g1, and there really isn't a whole lot you can do about it. Plus, knight takes f6 is still on the board, and you really haven't done anything to address that, so we really can't do that. You can't really, you know, pull the knight back anywhere. because, I mean, knight to g5 is an option. And you definitely, because of that bishop, like I was telling you guys earlier, is on that diagonal. You really can't just move this f pawn. So you just have a lot of threats if you're black. So, you know, you definitely, like I said, had to find that move. But of course, Wesley So says, bro, I'm 2,800 for a reason. And he does find knight to h7. We see the move c3, which kind of looks like, you know, why am I dropping, you know, this check right here? We're not really too worried about it. We do see knight to c2 with check. The king goes up to e2. We got knight taking a1. I mean, but the position is definitely much better for black. So, I mean, you know, it didn't really worsen your position any. And then we do see the move g4. You definitely, like I said, as black, do want to kind of make sure that you're not allowing white to make good on their sacrifice. So you definitely don't want this pawn just like marching up the board and ripping stuff open. You do definitely still have this bishop on this diagonal, so it can prove pretty deadly, especially if rook comes over here. So, you know, white definitely does have some threats, but black is definitely in the driver's seat of this position. We see the move c6, and these moves are coming in. Like, the way that white has their position set up, it's like if they can just get one extra move here, then they pretty much kind of have everything they really want. So black definitely has to make sure that their moves are counting for something, and that is what Wesley So is doing right here. So c6 definitely does attack white's best piece. You definitely have a strong bishop, like I said, but this knight is kind of like the king of the center of the board, and you absolutely have to try to get rid of it. We do see the move g5, but like I said, if white has like an extra move, then everything would be everything, but they don't. And you absolutely cannot give up this knight that's in the center of the board. And that is what actually happens. So it's starting to get a little bit worse and worse for white as we go on. The rook does come to g1, but like I said, you see that, I mean, the ideas are there, but you're just not quite ready to just bust everything open. Plus your bishop is hanging, so you're kind of losing material. We do see king going over to h8. Very simple, subtle move, but it does do a lot. We got knight taking h4. So it does, like I said, it seems like white is making some progress, but they just don't quite, they're not quite fast enough, and that's the problem. We do see queen going over to b6, and something I wanted to mention that I thought was kind of funny. This knight has just been hanging out on a1 like forever. It's like, I mean, as you guys know, like corners and rims for knights are, you know, really not the best place. It did grab a rook, you know, in its path, but I mean, it's just really been staring like at nothing for like a while. I thought that was kind of funny. We do see the move b4. We got bishop taking f2. Why not drop a pawn for white? We see the move d4. Now we're disconnecting the queen from the bishop, so the bishop has to kind of go in kamikaze mode. We got bishop taking h4, bishop taking d5. We see pawn taking d4. And then we do see the move g6. And I mean, it kind of looks like, I mean, maybe is white going to become successful? I mean, they're kind of getting towards checkmate, right? This knight is pinned to the king. We got g6. I mean, we got some checkmate threats going on. But like I said, white just doesn't have, they need one more extra free move. So basically, if Wesley So says, hey, man, I don't feel like moving, white can say, okay, cool, checkmate. But we're not going to see that. We got pawn taking g6. We got queen taking g6. So it's like right there. It's like when you're thinking of something that's on the tip of your tongue. It's kind of where we're at. We do see d3 with check, throwing a pawn completely away, but we're going to be good to go. King takes d3, and you see a very vicious attack coming. You got rook to f3 with check. The king goes to c4. Queen goes to c7 with check. And then where do you move? It's mating in 1 or 2. We see king going to d4, and then we see queen taking c3 with check, and that is mate. So it's crazy because you literally have two entire checkmates set up here, but we just couldn't quite get everything rolling like we'd like to. So Malaka see Wesley So in this one, and they actually had a tournament going on, like part of the Champions Chess Tour. You know, I'm not really sure. Like, this looked like a game that was kind of like in between. So maybe it was kind of like a training game or something like that. Test and variation. I'm not really sure. But Wesley So did take care of business in this one. So I appreciate everybody very much for coming by. Maraming salamat king makaibigan. Posa na nunod inga king ma video. Hello ulit. So nice to see you guys again. Spasibo if you're coming from Russia. And I'll see you guys next time.